This is Queensrÿche, and that's my function to like YouTube. And of course, continuing with US Power Metal Month, got done talking about both Sabotage and Warlord. It's time to get to another, I guess, semi-US Power Metal band. And of course, if you're going to talk about US Power Metal, you also can't forget to talk about this band. This band definitely kind of belongs within here. They were definitely one of the earliest US power metal bands, though they did start off as one before moving on to definitely more of a progressive band, just like with kind of like Fate's Warning and Sabotage and so forth. And of course, Queensrÿche, as the band that we're talking about, were kind of within that early progressive metal where they were kind of mixing in some of the early US power metal sound alongside Sabotage and Fate's Warning. So, and of course, here we're talking about the quintessential 1983 EP, which is definitely more in the US power metal vein than later releases, which also includes Operation Mindcrime and The Warning. Well, I could talk about The Warning after this, but that's definitely a bit more progressive. But since I talked about Sabotage, and I'm going to be talking about Fate's Warning later on this month, I guess maybe. It's a maybe. So, I think everyone, by now knows the story behind Queensrÿche. Once reformed as the band Mob, to then changing the name Queensrÿche when they were, of course, before they got Jeff Tate, he was also in another band named Myth, which did release a demo as well with Jeff Tate on vocals. So, once they both got together, they recorded a demo, which would eventually become the EP. So, for the debut official LP from Queensrÿche, this is definitely solid and definitely one of my favorites from them. This is definitely worthy of being talked about, since it is definitely still rooted within that early US power metal sound that was definitely coming into the fore, in the whole, within bands such as Sabotage and and of course later groups. Definitely still has that sound. It's definitely still Iron Maiden sounding, which is what most of the US power metal bands were going for, kind of Judas Priest / Iron Maiden, with a little of their choosing as well to throw in, something to kind of set them apart from the other bands. And songs on here such as Queen of the Reich, Knight Rider, Blinded are probably two of the heaviest songs off here, especially even songs such as Blinded and Knight Rider. Both these two definitely showcase what this band was definitely capable of, especially even a singer such as Jeff Tate, really kind of setting the standards for what even US power metal bands should kind of sound like, very melodic, very still, kind of either Bruce Dickinson sounding singing, or Rob Halford, definitely where it's more melodic, but also definitely kind of going for like highs as well. Just what can be else be said? Of course, the EP also ending on its most melodic note. It's very ballady. The Lady Wore Black, definitely ballady, but it's also still pretty heavy. It's just a haunting song that just ends this mammoth EP. This just a fucking great way to end it. And of course, production though is definitely still very demo sounding, but with the remasters and so forth, it kind of brightens up the mixing a bit. But it still ends up being raw no matter what. But it's what gives this EP its charm as well. It's not supposed to be polished stuff. This is just raw, heavy, and melodic, and just great. And this definitely ends up being one of my favorites. Of course, there's definitely music videos for both Knight Rider and Queensrÿche. And of course, Queensrÿche ends up being the most notable song off this album. Of course, featured in such as Grand Theft Auto Vice City Stories as well. It tends to kind of appear within also popular culture, which kind of solidifies this EP as one of the band's greatest releases. And after this, the band will definitely would turn into more of a progressive metal band, though having still some of the power metal roots in their sound. By each release, it disappears, and by Operation Mindcrime, it was disappearing. And then within, of course, Empire, it's disappeared. So the same thing, I guess, kind of went with Fate's Warning, but you get what you get. But still, this is definitely a solid EP, and it's just when it's worth talking about for this month. It's like, it's definitely one of the greatest moments within the U.S. power metal as well, and probably the most, talked about as well, like I've said in this video. Still, there really can't be much said about it. It's a solid release. Some will say it's overrated. Some may say that it's not as overrated, but it has every right to be given the status that it has been given. So, maybe I might talk about The Warning next. Who knows? We'll see what goes on within this month. So, until then, this is Heavy Thrasher saying I am out. And later.